Orlando for our biotech program. And I've worked with Tammy for a number of years and offered BACE exam to our students. And our program's relatively new. We're in our 5th year now, so we've been around for 4 years. And so I believe it was in our 2nd year that we started offering the BACE exam to our students as part of our program.
Excellent, thank you. Next is
Can you say the school again,
Oh,
Susan? Sorry.
Valencia College in Orlando. And then I'm also connected with Innovate Bio because I just received an NSF ATE grant. So I'm now getting connected with Innovate Bio and that group as well through NSF.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, when I said this meeting is being recorded, I think it masked some of your introduction.
No problem.
And next on my window is Tammy. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for inviting us to participate. So I'm Tammy Mandel. I'm with the University of Florida's Center of Excellence for Regenerative Health Biotechnology, and that's where BioUtility is housed. So I'm the director of BioUtility.
Next is Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Kelman. I'm at Montgomery College in Germantown, Maryland. I teach biotech there, and I'm having an allergy attack. I don't think it's COVID, it's just allergies, but I'm going to be coughing, so forgive me.
I completely understand, Lori. Next on my screen is Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie DeMarco. I also work at BioUtility, and I am the Educational Support Specialist.
Thank you. Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi Ortolano. I teach in Charles County at North Point High School. We have a biotechnology program, and even though it's been around since the school opened in, I believe, 2005, this is only my 3rd year there and 3rd year with the program, and the teacher before me kind of took everything, so I'm trying to rebuild the program. So
which teacher was that? Because that person might have emailed me. I might have some of their stuff.
I think I have a few things because the teacher right before me left me everything he did, but he was only there for 2 years. That was Mr. Harrett. And then the teacher before him was the one that had been there for years and years and then left and didn't leave any materials or anything. So, and then last year obviously was crazy. I actually was on maternity leave 1st quarter.
Ooh.
And then taught 2nd and 3rd quarter, and then 4th quarter was virtual. And now again, we're all virtual down here. And before I taught here at North Point High School, I was 7 years just teaching regular bio at another school in our county.
We have lots of material to share with you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so Avi.
I am Avi Silber. I teach molecular biotechnology, and I coordinate the Academy of Biotechnology at Northwest High School in Germantown. I've been developing a lot of apps to help with practicing for the BACE, so like auto-generating math problems, etc., and stuff like that, as well as like reading guides to go along with the BioRed textbook that's aligned with the BACE. So I'm especially excited to see if there's been any updates to the BACE that I should know about.
Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Madden. I'm at Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland. And I am in charge of our biotech program as well as teaching biology. And I'm new to an NSF Advanced Technological Education grant as well this year to help build our biotech program and create a degree program. Actually, we just have a certificate presently.
Thank you. Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Kelly. I've been teaching biotech for, about 15 years in Howard County in Howard County Health Public Schools, high school. But we've never done the BACE test before. We were going to do it last year and then decided to ditch it when quarantine turned everything crazy. And we're hoping to do it our first year this year, but I'm still waiting on administration to kind of push those things along. And I'm very interested to know, I'm anxious that our curriculum doesn't fully overlap with the BACE testing. So I want to know what we need to add in and what we need to do for these kids.
Thank you. Angela?
Hi, I'm Angela Consani. I'm an assistant professor microbiology at Johnson County Community College. I'm the former director of the Kansas City, Kansas Biotechnology Training Laboratory. I'm also the director of partnerships for Bioscience Core Skills Institute, which is a newly formed digital credentialing organization.
Thank you. Rajendran?
Hi, my name is Sean Rajendran. I teach biomedical sciences, project lead the way biomedical sciences at Western High School in Baltimore City Public School System.
All right. Heather?
I apologize, it's a little bit loud. I teach with Angela at Johnson County Community College in the biotech program and cell molecular biology program. And I'm also a co-founder and director of research at the Bioscience Core Skills Institute. And I'm excited to learn more about the BACE exam.
Thank you. Savita?
Hi, this is Savita. I teach at Frederick Community College, Biotechnology program lead. Thank you.
Valerie? I don't know if Valerie's mic is, oh, pretty. Oh, we cannot hear you for some reason. Oh, yeah, still cannot hear you. I think if we cannot hear you, maybe Savita can.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can, yes.
Okay, good. All right, sorry. I am Valerie Cousins. I teach biotechnology with Savita at Frederick Community College, and I also teach science in Frederick County Public Schools. And we're hoping to have some sort of biotechnology partnership with Frederick High School, where I teach, and Frederick Community College. So we're very interested in the exam. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you everyone so much for the introductions. I'm going to quickly share screen to just for 2 or 3 minutes to just start sharing about what our group is about, and then we will turn it over to our BACE experts. Okay. So please do let me know if you have any problem viewing the screen. I hope you can all see the screen. Can everyone see the screen? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
Great, okay. So we want to begin today's meeting by thanking everyone to spare time on Saturday and being able to come. And also we want to extend our special welcome to Stephanie, Lisa, Tammy, and Susan, because they are going to share with us something really important that everyone wanted to know more about. So as far as the state of Maryland, we are a part of BioHealth Capital Region, which aims to be in top 3 by 2023. We know that there are 10 biopharma clusters, and there is the first 3 I wrote down here, and we are number 4. And so that with that goal, the region is proceeding towards making its name on top 3. There are a lot of companies here, 1,000 plus. There are 70 federal labs and quite a few institutions which everyone is familiar with: Hopkins, University of Maryland, and there are nearby also many institutions which are a part of the cluster for the Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So just in today's session, we are going to talk about BACE, and then we are going to share among ourselves, once our session is over, what is the current status of programs and what are the updates. Please share any events that are coming up so that we can be aware of those, and we can spread them in our network and share with our students also. And we will also share some next steps in future meetings. So I'm going to share this link with you, which has the link for this PowerPoint, where you can add your suggestions or anything that you want to add actively during the meeting. And that will really help us in keeping up with our notes. Also, you can put them in the chat. So the one thing that I have recently learned, I have been looking a lot on the BHCR region, and there is a BioHealth Acceleration Initiative, which has 4 objectives, and we kind of fit in the goal 4, where the objective is to grow the talent pool of experienced people at all levels. And so we are providing them at the entry level positions. We are having a crucial role, in fact, in providing that kind of support. And I think a lot of people are familiar with the programs in the state of Maryland, but if you are not, just a very, very brief preview. There are 24 counties in Maryland, and there are actually, I should update this, 6 biotech programs. Montgomery Community College, of course, has the largest program with a lot of students and a very well-established program with Laurie. And then there is Frederick Community College has biotech program. That's what Savita is running. Baltimore City Community College is undergoing some kind of change in terms of who is going to be working on the program. So we're still kind of trying to hear from them. Hartford Community College with Jackie, and they're trying to launch this new associate degree. Hagerstown has a program. I've tried to reach Cindy, but still, I think I'm not sure if she could come for this meeting, but maybe, the next one. I recently had a conversation with Cecil College, and I know that they are going to start a new bioprocessing program. And we hope that they're going to join us like the next time. So these are the major programs in the state of Maryland. I also invited Delaware Community College because there is just one community college in the state of Delaware, and they might join us, the next time. So hopefully, we will learn more about that as well. So at the schools, there are certain counties which have a little more emphasis on the biotech program or project lead the way kind of thing. So I mentioned those. And as far as the bachelor's and master's schools, these are the list of universities which are having these programs. So I'm hoping to map all of these, maybe in the near future. And of course, I need all the help from you in making sure that I'm doing all the right things. And we'll be always doing in conjunction with Innovate Bio, because that's what we're a part of. That's about it. We have a newsletter which is going out only once in 2 months, and there are events and activities are shared in that newsletter. And if you want to subscribe, please just comment, and we won't really crowd your mailbox. It's just happening once in 2 months or 3 months. So it's something that you will only see a couple of editions. So with this, I want to turn it over for the info session that we have all been excitedly waiting for. And I want to stop sharing my screen so that I can turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Let me pull up so I can share my screen. All right, everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, well, hello from sunny Florida. Again, really excited that you invited us to participate today. I'm Tammy Mandel, Director of Bioutility, and importantly on this presentation with me, I have Stephanie DeMarco, also from Bioutility. So I'm going to give kind of a big picture overview of our initiatives and talk about the BACE, but I want to leave time for just discussion and questions. And, so Stephanie and Lisa together, can answer the nuts and bolts questions about the administration of the exam. I also have Susan from Valencia College, and she has, for many years, past several years, been very engaged with Bioutility. And so she can certainly talk about, not only how her program's structured, but her experience with articulation from our BACE credential earners into her program, as well as administering the BACE to her own students. So I'm going to kind of go through this presentation. I'll try not to talk too quickly. I get excited, got a lot to share. But if you have any questions about any of the initiatives that I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to touch on, just kind of the history in the secondary program, our efforts with the statewide articulation agreement, and then moving into the BACE. But if you want any detailed information, I'm happy to share that with you. I've also given some materials to Amrita to share, a PDF of the presentation, and some other things that I think could be helpful for you. So just moving forward then, so just quick brief history. So our center was put in place, gosh, about 15 or so years ago by the state, really with the intention of helping us diversify our economy. So Florida invested heavily in building the bioscience industry so that we weren't so overly dependent on tourism and agriculture. And so the center was put in place really with two missions. One was a contract manufacturing facility to make CGMP compliant materials for clinical trials, and that was Florida Biologics. And then BioUtility was tasked with the mission for developing the workforce talent to support the growth of the industry. And we approached that really from two angles. One was with funding from the umbrella over our workforce boards, so CareerSource Florida. And with that, our goal was, and actually continues to be, to interface with the industry and develop certificate short courses to address their immediate training needs. And of course, that changes over time. But that's something that we continue to do when we offer these trainings, either virtually, historically in person, et cetera. But I really want to focus on this other initiative, which was with the National Science Foundation, and that was to develop a secondary program in industrial biotechnology. And as you can imagine, as we were at the table with industry and educators, well, let me back up just a second. What was nice is that we were doing this really at the same time as we were working with our industry partners. We had conducted industry focus groups, so there was a lot of industry participation in the development of this secondary program. And so as we were developing it, the conversation became, who's the target audience? Because when you think of biotechnology, it's typically, a high level interdisciplinary complex concepts in science. And the argument was that this should be an academic, maybe even an honors high level academic type program. But then we had another group saying, but we can teach these students tangible skill sets that are valuable to the industry and, really make them employable straight out of these high school programs. And we ended up developing the framework for both, a framework for an academic program in industrial biotech and then a CTE program, also in industrial biotech. We sent both frameworks to the state and hoping that we would just get 2 approvals back. Well, what they ended up doing was merging these, and it was one of Florida's first hybrid academic CTE programs. And the knee-jerk reaction, of course, was, oh my gosh, what have you done? I kind of say it's very similar to that old Reese's peanut butter, but cup commercial. You got chocolate in my peanut butter. You got peanut butter in my chocolate, right? But then it turned into something great. And, so it's now been so it's approved by the state in 2006, and we launched it into 2 of our the schools that were participating in the grant, and then it just took off across the state. And so the beauty of it, of course, is that it really is tying into that goal that we all have, that we're preparing students for career, continued education, right, professional growth, and yeah, so that's this high school program. And so here's an overview of that program, and we can go into more discussions about this as well, but essentially it was created as a 3-year sequence. We're in the first year, kind of your basics of working in a research or an industrial type setting. So, right, the safety and just understanding, right, how to make the buffers, the basic chemistry that goes along with that. Then moving into, right, working with the microorganisms and manipulating DNA, sterile techniques. So really, that is the focus of that first year. And then in the second year, moving more into the protein expression. So transforming cells and then collecting the product and then, right, all the assays associated with that. And, so we do ELISA, the polyacrylamide gels, right, PCR. And, the interesting thing is that all these assays in this second year, and I think they're very common to most biotech programs, is, these are techniques that we use in research, but part of this effort is that paradigm shift. How would you use those same techniques as a quality control technician? And so, what we can talk about the careers in a little bit as well. And then in the third year, originally, way back then, we were thinking that Florida would become regionally specialized in different applications of the biotech industry. that ended up not happening. We get a kind of a smattering of everything all over the place, but so it's really directed more towards independent study, more either teacher directed projects or student directed projects. And so after this secondary program launched, we then received funding from the U.S. Department of Education through Florida's Department of Education. And this was during the rigorous programs of study. So this was one of the first grants awarded under the Rigorous Program of Study Initiative. Back then it was still called OVE. They were still using the vocational education acronym, but this was really that push to change the perception of vocational education, right? When we really switched into that whole idea of career and technical education, that these aren't dead-end jobs or traditional vocational education programs, right? These are high growth, right? Challenging careers. And so we received funding from them to develop a statewide articulation agreement so that students that were successfully completing our secondary program in industrial biotech could articulate into any of our 2-year degree programs. And this really involved a concerted effort then of working with, at the time we had community college in Florida. Since then, they've all transitioned, or most of them, to state college programs. But this again involved working with the post-secondary partners and the industry to make sure that these are industry-defined standards in the secondary programs that are being articulated into the post-secondary programs. And so part of that initiative, and these were all deliverables that were built into the grant, included just doing an industry survey again and breaking out the industry by their products, their classifications. And as you can see, and this is old data, but this is what we were working from at the time, and we continue to work with this as we're updating. But again, we got that broad distribution of industry applications. And what I love about this is, and this is what I love about the secondary and the secondary, post-secondary and secondary programs in biotech, is that there's so many directions the students can go, right? They're not locked into any one application of the biosciences. And I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here. But keeping in mind that when you're looking at these prioritized positions, they're going to change as the industry matures. So back then, the prioritized positions were really more in your research and development areas, the testing areas, because our companies were very young. They're still just developing, right? The techniques and the processes. They hadn't had a product yet approved by the FDA to then go into full manufacturing mode. But as the industry is maturing, now we're seeing more demand for manufacturing technicians and people that are working in that area as well. And so for this articulation agreement then, like I mentioned, we are working together with the community colleges. And so it really was an effort of just sitting down and doing alignment of the academic and the performance standards. And we did this by just going over all the syllabi for the programs. And at the time we were working with, I think there were 5 community colleges that were involved with this. And so going through the syllabi, course descriptions, looking at, the information on our state code, the numbering system within Florida, and then just interfacing with the instructors of these courses. And, what was settled on, and there actually is a very nice alignment, was that the secondary program really covers the topics that are in our post-secondary Introduction to Biotechnology and the corresponding methods courses. And so that's what we settled on with that.
Yeah.
Because this was part of that rigorous program of study effort, they also wanted us to look at any other potential courses that could be folded into an articulation or additional credit. And so we did look at, some of the maths and those things. They also wanted us to think about, what courses would we, suggest as prerequisites. So biology, chemistry are, core foundations behind this. Grade requirements, and we settled on a C, 2.5 GPA. And then also part of this grant then was to develop a rubric for a comprehensive exam. And that also included the practical skills, so that because it was a statewide articulation, we needed to make sure that there was that baseline of knowledge and skills that was articulated into these programs. And then also exploring a mechanism for transferring that credit. And so we're working on all this, and you can probably see where I'm going with this, is that Florida, and this was back in 2008, passed legislation called the Career and Professional Education Act. And, you know, this was, oh, sorry.
I had a quick question about the previous slide. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
So when you said you collaborated with 5 colleges, so all the 5 community colleges from the state of Florida?
Right.
Yeah, and of course the Gainesville is next to you, right? Gainesville Community College.
So the University of Florida is in Gainesville. Our facility is actually in Alachua, which is one of the biotech in Florida. So it's about 10 miles north of Gainesville.
Yep.
The college is the community college that was most local that we worked with. They actually, their facility is also in Alachua.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I was at University of Florida as a postdoc. So I know Gainesville is right next to, community college is right next to you guys. But you worked throughout the state and made sure that everyone was aligned.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and it really requires the buy-in, right? Because
of course,
on the plus side, this is, you know, kind of a pipeline of students into the programs. You know, and I think that and just to be blunt, you know, I think there was some concern that, you know, the high school program would actually compete, you know, with the graduates of the post-secondary programs. And, you know, but there's a distinction and yeah, so yeah, but that we got past that. So
can you speak a little bit more to that part? Like, so what made that not a problem?
Yeah. And I was also wondering, like, did you not involve high schools in that at all? Or?
You know, so it was. So we had a partnership. So this actually included a whole consortium of the high school teachers, you know, and primarily the ones that had been involved in that NSF effort, because, you know, they can speak directly to what their students are accomplishing in the secondary programs. And yeah, so these include, you know, this was roundtable meetings that included secondary instructors, post-secondary, as well as industry representatives. And, you know, coming back to, there was one college in particular where they brought up this idea of, you know, potential competition between, you know, completers. And, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, it's something that I think had to be delicately addressed, because I think people that teach, and, you know, and rightfully so, you know, these high school programs are highly rigorous, and these students are elbow deep in it, you know, for, you know, 2 to 3 years or more. And, you know, they do come out with, you know, some, like I said, you know, marketable skill sets. You know, but I do think that when somebody presents with an application for a position, you know, the hiring managers are going to look differently at a college graduate, right, or a 2-year degree than a high school graduate. And yeah, so at the end of the day, you know, I think it really is a win-win, and maybe Susan can speak more to that. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Susan, on.
So actually so I'm in the Orlando area, and we have much more of the Project Lead the Way biomedical programs as opposed to the technical program that Tammy developed. But still, at the end of the day, those students take the BACE exam at the end of the Project Lead the Way biomedical program. And I've only had a couple of them come through my program, and they have been amazing and wonderful. The ones that have completed the Project Lead the Way program. But and I've talked to many of the high school teachers who run the biomedical programs, and I'm asking, like, why don't I get more of your students coming through my program? And they were saying that most of the students that are in these advanced programs like this that are very rigorous, those are the students that are going to go straight to your 4-year university And so they're not considering really going to a two-year college as their pathway.
And we see that across the country, right? That's absolutely true. And it goes back to, what I was saying too about the rigor of these programs, that, the majority of the students are looking at post-secondary at some level, and, but multiple opportunities. So
one thing I was going to say is that the students, the couple of students that we have had who have come through, they were able to complete their AS degree in essentially one academic year. And so, they get their AS degree. And I was asking also, how does what we're doing in our program, because you've passed the BACE exam, you've been through, the Project Lead the Way program, how are you learning more in our AS degree program versus what you learned in the high school program? And they essentially said the skills are similar, but we go into a lot more depth than what they do. So for example, they might run one polyacrylamide gel or do one PCR, but whereas, we dig in a little bit deeper to these skills and do more of them and more variations on them.
Yeah, and I'll show some graphs too of how these students are performing on the BACE, kind of comparing the secondary and post-secondary outcomes. But before we even get to the BACE, let me just finish up with the the statewide articulation agreement, because it really was then, in the midst of this effort that Florida did pass this legislation, the CAPE Act. And the whole intent behind this act was to drive those academic industry partnerships, again, recognizing that we're transitioning from traditional vocational education and really, right, integrating these higher level career opportunities into our programs. And one of the key components of the CAPE Act was that students had to have the opportunity to earn an industry recognized credential. And so because we were working already so closely with the academic programs as well as the industry, the Department of Education, Florida's Department of Education, came back to us and said, we need you to add to these deliverables the development of an industry recognized credential. And so that was really what drove then the creation of the biotechnician assistant credentialing exam. And so it is based on knowledge and skill sets that have been identified by the industry as being valuable in these technician level positions. And, they were quite empathetic that, not only did they need to understand the theory behind, right, the applications of the science that they're learning of these knowledge sets, but they also had to demonstrate that they had that practical, right, know-how, the good hands as they call it, and that they can actually, work in these environments. And so we worked with our industry organization, BioFlorida. So BIO is the international organization that represents the bioscience industry. And pretty much every state has then its own arm of the BIO organization. And so in our case, it was BioFlorida. And so we set out and developed this rubric based on their standards. And then they reviewed, the corresponding rubric for relevancy, right, accuracy, the difficulty level. And that was approved by our Board of Education, and as well as our workforce board, which oversees these industry credentials as well. And I did include as a handout, I think that can be probably sent out with you. It's also on our website, but this is a big picture overview of the applied knowledge that the students really, or that BACE credential earners are going to be addressing in the exam. So when you look at these topics, it's really in the context, right, of using them, understanding. So, right, when you look at the biochemistry or the chemistry, right, it ties into, making solutions, understanding why we're doing it a certain way, why enzymes are important, in reactions and how that works. So this is provided as a handout to you, and then this is an overview of the practical exam subjects. And so we've got applied math, your biotech skills, the equipment that you're going to be using, in a QC or a research type environment, and then your foundational workplace skills, safety and behavior. And so again, I can't get too deep in that, but the distribution of these topics are set by our advisory board. And so they really dictate the weight that is applied to each, as well as the difficulty level. And, so it's very heavy on biotech skills, and then also the applications of those skills. You'll see that purplish 13%, and that's the applied math. And the reason I have that red arrow there is because this is something that is important to the industry, right? That their employees can make solutions. They can do serial dilutions, basic dilutions, right? Calculate molarity, percent volume. But this is where students struggle the most on the exam. And when you look at that 13%, and I'm going to talk about pass rates, et cetera, but this is what really drives the pass rate down. And
may I ask a question?
Sure.
Applied math, is it do the math for the dilution and perform the dilution, or is it paper? Or could you just say a tiny bit more about what the demonstration of skills is?
Yeah, so, this is built into the practical exam. And so, if it's a weight volume, it very well could be calculations and then, performing that metric, or being able to accurately describe how that should be conducted. So if you're going to weigh out the material, how do you then bring it to volume, right? So these correct techniques for making the correct percent solutions. I will say that we have also worked very closely with our advisory board, who plays, again, a heavy role in not only in this topic distribution, but every year when we create that New Year's version of the exam, they participate in the review of the individual items. And what we also have them do is do the same thing for a practice exam. So we have a very, well-developed, actually 2 versions of a practice exam that are also developed with our advisory board. And there's no charge, if you've registered for the exam, there's no charge to make use of this practice exam. Students get immediate feedback, teachers get feedback from this exam, and we've added additional modules on practicing these math applications. And so it's a great tool to use, and it also gives you a sense of the difficulty level of the exam. So I would encourage you to make use of that. If you register as a test site, you do have free access to that exam. This is in no way a marketing spiel, but it is, I think, a very useful tool.
So I asked in the chat, I thought I'll just ask you, is it, do you get these questions from other people who outside Florida even, like they want to do a BACE exam?
Yeah.
People want to do a BACE exam, even if their community college is not administering the exam, so that they can be certified in a way?
So, like I said, so individuals can register to sit for the exam. And one thing I'm going to say right now is that, due to COVID, so COVID hit right when, the schools were preparing to administer the BACE. And so we had an emergency meeting with our board. And actually, let me jump ahead just a little, because I was just going to mention, I think it's the next slide. So we do have a national advisory board. This has grown so beyond Florida that it's really important that we have national representation from the full spectrum of your small companies to your very large established companies, right? Different roles within those organizations. So we did have a meeting with the board because, students had been preparing to sit for this exam, and they granted us approval to administer the full exam virtually. And that approval is now through July 15th of 2021. And it's still proctored. We use a system called HonorLock, and students or any individual now can sit for this exam from home and take the full exam virtually. The other thing that we did is we hired a third party to do a psychometric study, because we want to make sure that the outcomes are identical from the traditional manner in which we had administered this exam in the past. And they gave us the results actually about 2 weeks ago, and no difference in exam security, right? Anything that would be out of the ordinary. And then they also did an alignment with the questions and how students were performing, and they didn't see a difference in difficulty level or outcome performance, with the actual items, these cells. For the development of each year's exam, we hire professional item writers. These are people in the industry with industry experience. Again, making absolutely certain that these are questions, these are topics, right, that are representative of these industry needs. And so just, kind of along those lines then is what began to happen was as other states passed similar legislation, or again, they were growing the bioscience industry, they approached us about using this exam. And, my response has always been, well, of course, anybody can sit for this exam, but at the end of the day, the value to the student or the credential earner and the state and the industry is that there's that industry buy-in, right? I would lose sleep at night thinking that somebody was sitting for this exam and, it had no merit with their local or state industry. And, and so most states now, and, early on this wasn't the case, but most states now, when they go through a formal adoption process, is they require, right, input from the industry. And usually this starts, very easily, not, this effort, but at the local level, right, where a school just works with their own advisory board or their industry partners. And this is something that, we're happy to assist with, if it maybe providing a link for them to actually sit and maybe go through the practice exam so they can see the rigor that's built into that. Any materials we can provide, to show them that this really is a credential that's geared towards the industry. But since that time now, the credential has been formally adopted by several states. And so those are highlighted in orange. So we have Arizona, Arkansas, District of Columbia, Maryland, of course, and Missouri recently came on board. The other states are, either actively engaged in, trying to work with the stakeholders for that formal adoption, or they're piloting in different districts. And so, interestingly, Nigeria has formally adopted it, and it's also been administered in Brazil. So like I mentioned, we do now have a national advisory board that's been in place now for quite a while. At any point, if somebody has somebody they would like to recommend as, to receive an invitation to this board, we would be happy to consider that, because I think the more broad representation we can get, the better, especially, throughout the country. I'm just going to cut a couple nuts and bolts, because these were things that, you had mentioned, Amrita, that instructors might be interested in. I think you're probably already all familiar with it, though, is, so in terms of the textbook, at the time when we developed that high school program back in 2006, this was really the only text that was out there. And, it continues to be used. I've written down the chapters that this was, some of the teacher agreement that this kind of fit best with the outline of Florida's framework. I will mention too that I sent Amrita, I sent you the framework, so that if you want to share that with everybody, please do so. So this is it's a good text. I think it covers the foundational ideas, but I think was it Avi that mentioned this, that Biorad a couple years ago, when they put out the second edition of their textbook, they deliberately aligned it with the BACE. And so it really incorporates more of that industry perspective. And so if it's not something you're familiar with, or I think it's something that, I think the students, again, it's a real mind shift, because they're not necessarily told about these careers in the industry. If anything, it's the dark side, right? You don't want to go there. These are great high growth careers. And so So in any case, this BioRad text covers a lot of that. I think, maybe a combination of the textbooks might be the best way to go. But that is that. And, we touched on this too. So several years ago, Project Lead the Way did a gap analysis, and Susan brought this up too, because they wanted to start using the BACE in their, for their students. And so they conducted this analysis, and, they found a significant, right, more than significant agreement between the BACE framework and their own programs. And so they've been using this extensively throughout the country as well. And so that brings me to the pass rate. So it is not an easy exam. It's not everybody's going to get an award with this one, because we really are separating the cream from the crop. And, we look at the outcomes, and, you'd see, right, similar outcomes between your traditional biotech programs, which are the gray bars, and then the Project Lead the Way programs, which are the orange bar. And then the green bar are the post-secondary programs. And, they're performing much better. And it's a combination of added maturity, extra experience, as Susan alluded to. And then the blue bar are teachers. And in Florida, I don't think this is true throughout the country, but with Florida, any teacher that teaches a course that leads to an industry recognized credential, they need to actually have earned the credential themselves. And so they sit for the exam. We have other teachers that participate in our summer programs that sit for the exam. I will say now that the exam is fully available in a virtual format, that this is really a good time as an instructor to sit for the exam, because it alleviates the need of finding a testing site. And then once you sat for the exam, and if you want to then register your institution or school, as a test site, then we have an easy process for that. We really try to make it as low effort as we can. We know you're very busy. And so, like I said, Stephanie and Lisa are participating in this as well. And we're anytime, even not today, right? We're happy to help you with that. Here's a breakdown of outcomes just on the topics. And again, you can see, right, kind of a similar performance. Interesting, where, Project Lead the Way is actually outscoring the traditional biotech programs in some areas. General topics in biotech, right? They're a little bit higher there, lab skills and applications. But across the board, I think it's a pretty even outcome. And again, the post-secondary programs are scoring slightly higher on those topics. But what I want you to see here, and this is what I alluded to earlier, is that applied math section. Overall, the candidates are doing well on all these topics, and where we see, right, the big drop is in that applied math. And so, again, the added practice, and it's something that just, you have to practice it so it just becomes second nature. I used to work in industry, and I could just do dilutions and calculations, like that. Now that I've been out of it for a while, if you were to ask me to calculate, how do you make a 10 millimolar solution of sodium chloride, I'd think, shoot, I got to stop and think about that. So,
amazing, Tammy, to learn that PLTW and non-PLTW doesn't have so much difference, because I know some of our teachers are teaching PLTW, and I think at least Sean asked, is there a difference? What should we do? Should we change? Looks like it's pretty uniform, and that's kind of great stats to know.
Yeah. So I've presented at, I participate in their summits, and the teachers that are really interested in, administering this. I think there are some areas. So again, that math, that's what I tell them all, practice that math. I think the industry career piece, just understanding, what's the difference between quality control and quality assurance. Some of those aren't necessarily built into the Project Lead the Way curricula, but you do just either having that BioRad text as a resource in the class, or, bringing in guest speakers to talk about these roles in the industry. I think helps bridge that gap. But otherwise, I really don't see anything significantly different. And so in terms of employment, so like we said, most of these students are looking at post-secondary education. We are now, it's a challenge tracking, right, these students, especially when they leave high school. But we have different ways now of staying connected with them, through LinkedIn or just trying to chase them down. We have a credential learner newsletter. We do a featured credential earner every month on our website, so just whatever we can to keep them engaged and keep them communicating with us. But, when I look at, the companies that have hired credential earners, I think what I really like is, again, you see that diversity of where they can go, with this background and the credential, so whether it's the diagnostics industry, the biopharmaceutical industry, we've got Boehringer Ingelheim, Applied Genetic Technologies Corporation, a gene therapy company, Meru NutraSciences for dietary supplements, Monsanto, Syngenta for the agricultural, right, applications, NovaBone, RTI Surgical, they process human long bones to make orthopedic devices. So just this full spectrum of opportunities.
May I ask a question about that?
Sure.
I have not seen BACE listed in a job ad at this time. What are they valuing it as?
Exactly. So, so that's something now that, right, that our board, our advisory board is working on, and also just direct communications now. So, because you're absolutely right. That's what we want to see, where in a position description, they include, right, they're going to give preference to, or preferred qualification is the BACE credential. And so even though that's not in these job descriptions right now, when you talk to the industry and the hiring managers or the decision makers, just the fact, right, it wasn't listed, but just the fact this is something that's on the student's resume makes a difference. But I 100% agree that, this is something that, again, the whole concept of credentialing or a credential is very new to the bioscience industry. You think of these other, right, industry sectors, and it's not so novel, but, historically the bioscience industry, right, the bachelor's degree was really the entry point for even these very low level technician positions. And what you find is, right, a huge degree of turnover, because not only are bachelor's degrees not necessarily even prepared for this work and know what it is that they need to do, but their expectation of where they are in the totem pole doesn't necessarily align with the job itself. And so I really think that the industry is coming around to recognizing that skills gap, knowledge gap, and addressing that. But it's communication. It's something that I'm working on. I think I know, right? Like, this is something that we're just.
And I can echo that as well. I'm sorry, I turned my video off because I was having audio issues, so sometimes that seems to help. So I've had a few students who are getting biomedical sciences degree at University of Central Florida, which is our 4-year college here, but even many of those degree classes in the sciences don't have labs. So I have students who are in my program to get the lab skills at the same time, because they know that they want to go work in a lab. But when they're getting their bachelor's degree, many of them are theory classes. So for example, they have a biotechnology methods class that doesn't have a lab. So it's like, how is this even possible that you have a biotech methods class and there's no lab associated with it? And the same thing, the intro to biotechnology class doesn't have a lab. So I see, it's not all of my students, but I have a significant percentage. I would say about, 10 to 20% of my students are also getting their bachelor's degree at the same time, but now they're coming to my program so they can get the lab skills, so they're prepared to go work in the lab on day one when they get hired. Another thing that I have seen from my students who've graduated is that, they apply for a job where it says, high school or AS degree, but then when they go into the interview and they they list all the skills and all the techniques that they can perform. They're like, well, you're really much better suited for the next job up, but it says you have to have a bachelor's degree. And so I think that is a problem that I've heard echoed around the country, that it's not just in the state of Florida, that a lot of people have that same issue with their AS degree completers are in many ways better prepared, but the minimum job description, like Tammy said, is you need a bachelor's degree for these entry-level positions, when our students with an AS degree are really much better prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these are positions that we have, BACE credential earners have gone into. And again, it's really spanning the opportunities within the industry. And, I think the nice thing is there's less of a glass ceiling. Once you're in and you've got a job in the industry, your opportunities for growth, if you're willing to work beyond your job description and show the aptitude for the work, they really want to grow you and keep you, because, this is specialized work, proprietary work. And if they can grow candidates within rather than, outside searches, it's really to their advantage. And so, again, just a full variety of where they've gone. The students that are continuing into post-secondary programs are snapped up for undergraduate research positions, as well as internship opportunities. And this is, like I had mentioned before, the heavy lift has been, not just, really making students aware of these opportunities. And, if at any point, if it's helpful, I'm happy to talk about what these different jobs are. Anything that we can do, beyond this presentation, because I know a lot of it was just kind of the high level overview, but if you want any other information about how we did the articulation agreement, or, a deeper dive into anything we've talked about with the BACE, we can certainly do that. I will add that we do offer professional development. The Industrial Biotechnology Teacher Experience was actually developed and approved by our state, because when we created that hybrid program in biotech, it was impossible to find anybody with industry experience as well as the teaching qualifications to teach that course. And so the Industrial Biotech Teacher Experience, we bring teachers in, it's a 2-week program, and it's just an immersive, here we're going to go through all the techniques, that you're probably already somewhat familiar with, but in the context of working in the industry. So if we're doing a transformation and a purification, we're doing it in the context of a manufacturing function. And then how do we measure the purity of the protein, or the quantity of DNA, or quantity of protein in ELISA, doing that in the context of a quality control function. And then also talking about the roles of quality assurance, and what is the documentation that's used in the industry, and the regulations, just to immerse them again in that industry culture and understanding why we do things differently in industry rather than research. Then we do offer a whole bunch of other just short courses, and it hopefully helps. So I know I probably went longer than I was supposed to. I apologize. But we do thank you, and and even if it's beyond today, you can always reach out to us and ask. So again, I guess probably went over, but if you do have questions, whether it's just the nuts and bolts or bigger picture, we're happy to answer them.
Tammy, I had a question about you had mentioned that your National Advisory Board with the pandemic had advised you and agreed that you guys should take your testing to completely online using, I think you said HonorLock was the proctoring method you guys were using. Prior to that, with your in-person exams, was there a practical portion?
Yes. And so, so we do have a very, kind of a strict rubric in terms of, the proctoring of the exams. And so in the traditional format with the practical exam, the rule was that, so we like to have the instructor present just in the event there needs to be any troubleshooting or anything like that. But there has to be a third party. So, administrators, sometimes schools would make use of an advisory board member, There has to be somebody else in the room, who has taken an oath to make sure that there's no right, nefarious things going on. In the practical exam, for the most part, there's usually only 2 stations that require any direct input from the proctor. So there's really a low opportunity for anything. Regardless, all the materials are shipped back to us. And so, we can certainly audit any outcomes. But I don't, Lisa, are you on the call? Are you? I know Lisa was having some technical trouble. Okay. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Just also in the sense that even though we've gone through this process of having an equating study and pushing the practical portion of the task to a remote version of the task that can be monitored remotely, the live version is still available, and that's still an option for schools to deliver right now at this moment. So right now we're running these 2 options for the test administration for that practical exam at the same time.
So Lisa, with the online practical and utilizing HonorLock, are you guys still doing the physical movements and just having one of your proctors observe utilizing the HonorLock, or how are you doing a practical with an online environment?
So we've gone to scenario-based questions. We worked with a number of subject matter experts to try to get to the core of whatever that skill was that we were really testing. And so we've got a number of scenario-based questions that are testing the same skills and concepts, but it is all online and it's not monitored. I don't want, like, we don't have a biotechnician expert that's actually monitoring the students during that practical exam, just to be clear.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. You said that this BACE is approved in Maryland. What does that exactly mean?
That means it's gone through the vetting process. So every state has their own process. So typically what it means is that there is some formal list at the state level of industry recognized credentials. And, in some states it's tied to, maybe how they're funneling funds to a school or a district or a program, or how they're distributing Perkins funds. Again, every state is different. I'm actually not sure specifically what that means for Maryland. I don't know if anybody at the state level or if anybody has any input on that. But essentially it means it's been reviewed by industry and that they've given their seal of approval that it's an industry recognized credential and that it's been added to a state list, usually within the Department of Education.
Do you think it's okay to contact the advisory board member that you had mentioned in the state of Maryland to learn more? You had mentioned ACEL, some senior program person who is in your advisory board. Is it a good way to contact someone, or could you share a contact for us so that we can, I guess, learn a little more about how, or technicalities about approval in the state of Maryland?
Yeah, so it's been approved. Our advisory board member in Maryland did meet with the state level representatives to communicate.
I think the question is not get it but who is the approval by, and what are the implications of that for high schools and community colleges? Like, how
do we start administering that? Let us say one of the college wants to adopt, then what
can we tell our students, our parents, and our administrators?
And which are the companies that were on board saying that the test is a good metric for hiring, that they would hire people who pass the test?
Let me go to, so Angie, Maryland, ACEL Inc. So I honestly, I have not been told who the other companies are. I know the CTE director at the time, and it was actually a couple of years ago, and I was trying to recall her name, but they had done a thorough vetting of the exam, and I wish I had more details on that. I really didn't take a deep dive into.
We'll find out more. Don't worry. if you
I do
can
know
remember.
from my end, the fact that CTE or Maryland or somebody vetted it, we've been getting pressure from our administration about trying to have some sort of nationally recognized exam for years and years. And when we agreed to take the BACE, they were like, oh, phew, we finally can check off and say that this is not a rogue career academy. So that was, they were happy with that actually. And a lot of how do we guarantee it's a valuable program? And so it's good, nice to have at least somebody give us a test to align that with actually.
And that's so important. And I respect that states are being so diligent about, vetting these exams. I know even in Florida, when the CAPE Act was passed, it just became this mad scramble to find credentialing exams. And they were putting credentialing exams into programs that they had no business being there. And, it is so critical that the industry is involved, right? And that there is that recognition. And so it's been a growing process. And again, if there's anything we can do to help communicate with industry, but it is recognized, throughout the country. We've got big companies on board with it. And it was truly developed from industry defined standards. It wasn't created in a vacuum.
Earlier, oh, sorry. It's interesting. I've been noticing this a lot on Zoom because the slight audio delay, the natural moment where we're like, oh, I can say something. No one's saying something. I'm going to say something, but we both have the delay, and so we both end up saying at the same time. Without going on too much of a tangent, there are protocols that allow for real-time audio. It's one of the things I've been learning in this master's I'm doing. But you mentioned earlier about that you suggested cocktail between the two textbooks, which could be expensive. So what I'm curious about is, do you have, are you aware of certain topics that are gaps in one textbook or the other that aren't covered by one? So if someone wanted to, like if a program couldn't afford to get both textbooks, but wanted to, blanking on the word, to add content on the side.
Right. I have no financial ties to either text. I think that, the BioEd text does build in more of just the whole regulatory compliance piece and understanding why we have regulatory agencies, even beyond the FDA, and talking about the industry careers. What is quality control? What is quality assurance? What are some roles in biomanufacturing? And then Ellen Doherty's book, I think, does a really nice job, though. Just, I think, in a way, hers is more readable, user-friendly to a certain extent. I don't think it's as grounded in using BioRad materials or kits, which is another advantage. We do on our website, we have added just resources and teaching resources for implementing those industry perspectives. And so it might be that, right, you could work around the BioRad text. But I think it's really preference. I would recommend that you review both and see which seems like a better fit for your teaching style. And maybe
it was exactly the thing you said about the regulations, that because we had a previous edition of the Doherty book, and I didn't have a lot of background on the regulation and industry stuff. And so then when I had a sample of the BioRad book, and I was like, oh, here's the answers to the questions I had. And so that's actually what shifted me over. But I'd be curious then what the gaps are in the BioRad text.
I think the BioRad book covers everything.
Okay.
I really think they have just very different ways of presenting the material. And
cool. Thank you.
I think that was a very engaging session. I want to make sure that we thank you for all the time and effort that you all have put in and especially presenting the whole thing to everyone and answering so many questions. What I have done is I have put all of these materials in a separate folder called BACE in our Google Drive, and I have shared the drive. And I think that everyone should be able to access the 3 different documents that you have shared with us. And if there is any problem, of course, I can email everyone the documents.
Can I ask a question? Because we're going to do our very first administration, is there someone who I could talk to about like the nitty gritty questions? Do they need to know serological pipettes that are only measured going up, or do they have the disposables that have the numbers both ways? Like I have all these really specific questions. Is there a contact for those kinds of things? Who do I have to ask Avi?
Let me just jump in because anytime you guys have questions, definitely come through me. You can always email me directly, or you can email the BACE folder. Stephanie is also a great contact on some of these nitty-gritty questions that you have. And typically if we see them in writing, it's a little bit easier to answer them because there are certain things that get asked that we can't answer because they're directly related to the content of the exam. But if you shoot me an email with your question, then I'll be happy to make sure that you get a very precise answer that we can give.
I did try to share all the email and information for each one of you so that anyone can get in touch. And of course, this information is also on the PDF. It's the PowerPoint converted to PDF.
Thank you. We really appreciate this opportunity to meet with you. And, if we can, like I said, if we can help, if I can do a similar presentation to, for an advisory board or industry partners. So anything we can do to help, we're here. And
I'm pretty sure people will take you up on that one. And I'm really amazed by how much effort you put in. And you said the exams were free, and it just feels like there is so much that you all are doing. It's incredible. Definitely something at national level, like not just Florida. Thank you, everyone. And I just want to move over to the Maryland part. So I just wanted to see if there are any leftover questions for the BACE so that we can all discuss a little bit about our programs.
I have one last question. So people who take the BACE, if they take it in high school, do they get employed right after high school, or does the exam count even if they do associates and bachelors? Like, how does it actually work? How do students do it? Like, how does the thing work?
So they can be employed straight out of high school. The credential is valid for 5 years. And so if they continue on through, a post-secondary program, they can still use that credential beyond that.
What do you typically see in your students? Do they get employed, or do they go higher up studying?
Yeah, so the ones that are seeking employment, so I don't have the reality is most of them are going on to post-secondary education. And, and then a number of them do then find part-time work to support their education, or like I said, they get, into these graduate research or undergraduate research positions. But the ones that truly want to go to work, and I can't give you a percent. I think it's, again, a small number that's not going to post-secondary. But they are those positions that we listed are students, that have been, I don't have a number, I wish I could give you a specific number. Tracking them, finding out what they're doing is very challenging, but they are finding positions.
I want to thank you again for your time, all of you, for your time, because we usually meet only once in 2-3 months. Everyone is so busy, and especially doing it on a Saturday, it really appreciate all that. We will be talking a little bit more about Maryland colleges and schools, so I hope it's something, if you want to, at this point, do something more useful with your Saturday, that's fine. Or if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay.
Well, thank you.
We'll be in touch for sure.
Thank you. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen real quickly. Oh, okay. So I was just going to come back to our agenda, which was like talk about, I don't need to share it for too long, current status and updates in the program and what should we do for future meetings. So I have shared this PowerPoint with you, and these are some of my thoughts. And, so my thoughts are basically like we should be, let me just open it up. And, we should definitely invite speakers if you wish to, and maybe each program can present about themselves. I don't know if everyone knows all the program because we know each other's program to a limited extent. So maybe we could share some of those things and anything that you want to share. So I just want to stop speaking and let you guys share updates on your programs in whichever order you wish to. Like, how are you doing? What's going to happen next semester and all that. And any events that you would like us to attend.
I'll talk a little bit about my program since I'm relatively new to it. We do use the Ellen Doherty textbook, and that's pretty much what I go by. I do have, my students are with me for 3 years, and the last year, so their senior year, they have I have them for 3 blocks. So a double block on one day and 1 block on the other. So it's 2 separate classes, one of them being a double block. So the program as a whole is 4 classes. And that the 4th one is kind of their capstone project, where I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with their capstone project. And like, especially this year being virtual and we don't really have a lab to do anything in. So I'm still working through some stuff. But I know that my county, we have submitted paperwork to the state to become a certified like CTE program, because right now we're not. And the BACE exam is the one that my students would have to take, like we kind of added that in there, but we've never administered it or anything like that. So I'd have to go through that process as well.
Yeah, you should make sure that you get help from other biotech teachers, because taking over a new curriculum without enough support is miserable, and it just shouldn't happen to anyone. Shouldn't happen to anyone.
He knows this really well.
Yeah, it's rough because I teach all classes myself. There's no other teacher in the Tri-County area that has my program. The rest of our schools do the PLTW one.
Mm-hmm. We, so my school has had a program, my county's had a program for, I think, about 20 years. And our kids are, I'm just going to take over in the pause and talk about my program. My program is a 2-year program. They start in their junior year with a double credit. And then in their senior year, they typically take a 3-credit class. So they have, which means that they, the kids who go out to internships, and about half of our kids spend the majority of their senior year working in labs. They come to me a couple days a week, and I give them a lot of assignments around those labs, but they're doing their experiment, their wet lab stuff in other area labs. And that's a 3-credit class so that they can leave really even before lunch every other day, which is nice. It gives them a good chunk of time. Right now they have us running as we're on the 4x4. So our kids are our first year kids are taking 1 credit both semesters, and our senior year, they're having them do 2 credits both semesters, which means we have more time and possibly less to do with them. So I am in fact teaching a totally new curriculum this year because they're not out in labs. It's been a little crazy. We have had permission to send out. I was super excited last time I spoke to you about how we got permission to send out those kits, and isn't this wonderful? It is so much work. I mean, it's so much work making these boxes. So we have done our first rotation of boxes with our first year students. We're in the middle of replenishing those boxes so they can rotate on to the next group. And we are sending out our second year's boxes, our first one, next week. We actually had our second year students in person for a total of 3 days before they shut us back down. So we opened up and then they're like, nah, after you took out every blessed thing and rearranged everything, we're going to go back to no in-person face-to-face stuff. So I'm tired. Like this year really sucks. But you know, I guess it's continuing on. It's continuing.
What experiment did you do with them? Just curious, like an example of what you did with them when you gave them the box.
We have, so my box, so we're rotating through the 3 teachers. So we each do, at least next rotation, I'll be on it, doing the same curriculum again with the same box. My box, I did the DNA. So we did a DNA extraction. I did from their saliva last time, but I think I'm going to do for a banana next time because it was just so much more successful. And then I'll just have the kids who've already done a fruit thing do it from their saliva next time. It is pretty fine. And then we sent out an actual electrophoresis chamber and a power supply, and they did a digestion. So they did a digestion and they ran the gel and they poured the gel with pre-melted gel at home, and then a bunch of models. So that's what I did in mine.
That's part of the practical on the BACE, by the way. It's
pouring a gel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know, in a typical year, we have the kids pour 3 gels during the year, and they dissolve. It's the big part is making sure your agarose is dissolved, and they didn't do that because I'm like, I don't want to mess with that at home for kids who've never done it before. So they won't have done that for the kids who are just starting this year. But they had a micropipette, so I trained them on micropipetting, and I'm about to mask their tubes to see if they were accurate with they each got a P10. And then the other 2 kits, there's a kit that went out with a microscope, and they did a gram stain, and they did streaking for isolation, and they did an aseptic transfer, and a lot of looking at pond water. And then the third one was our forensics kit, and they did thin layer chromatography and blood typing and fiber test, which is not really biotech. And then the seniors, I did the BioBits people who did that little illuminator, the P51 fluorescent illuminator. They cost a lot of money, but they shockingly got approved for us. And so my kids are doing the cell-free protein production, and the it's an enzyme lab, a little enzyme lab. And we have a group doing a lot of little chemistry things, chemistry experiments, and a group who are doing the halobacters. They didn't really want us to do culturing bacteria at home. And so the halobacter kit, which is not as elaborate as what we do, but they won't grow outside of that high salt media. And so they're gonna do, again, streaking for isolation and serial dilution and counting colonies with that. Yeah.
Their parents are okay with them doing these little things in the home, I hope.
So we let anybody can opt out. We've had just a couple of people opt out. They really aren't that dangerous. So I mean, we really are trying to say what we're worried about is the younger siblings and the animals, right? So if your dog eats it, I'm not happy about it, but it's nothing more dangerous than what's in your medicine cabinet and your cleaning cabinet closet. So if you can keep that safe, you can keep this safe. We did have 1 gel chamber come back cracked. But otherwise they've sent out back, we've had every baggie they're sending back. I mean, they're doing a really good job. I'm impressed with the reliability and even the picking up and dropping off supplies I thought was going to be a massive problem. They're making it work. They're coming in, we have a 2-hour window, and we'll have 95% of them come in that 2-hour window. It's been good. Yeah.
I did want to mention, because you said DNA, working with DNA. So DNA LC has the sequencing available, and I think a lot of it is free. I don't know if everything is free, but you can get genomic DNA out of insects or ants. I don't know, they have different projects or different things, and you can send it to them, they'll sequence it, and then you can analyze the results with your kids. And
that would be fantastic. I might try to add that onto my, if I could do that, that would be great.
Yeah, it works even for community college or high school level, and they are doing this, like, I think they're looking for different species of ants, but I think they might be open to different things. So there are events. There is an event happening next Saturday at around the same time. So
yeah,
that's something that you can try to attend.
okay. Thank you.
About other colleges, like is anything happening online, or I mean everything happening online? Sorry, or face to face? Not no face to face.
Yeah, I can update. So we made our own kits, which was a box of stuff. We used CARES funding to purchase cheap micro pipettes, which were okay. I don't know if the tips were so good. The students used tap water. And, you know, I'm not sure I've ever micro pipetted tap water. So it was sticking in the tips and, you know, not flowing the way it should and blah, blah, blah. We were extremely worried about a kid or a dog eating micropipette tips. So I think we oversold the safety issues, and we had students who didn't take the kits. They were optional. But I mean, I was just so worried that somebody was going to drop the tips and some dog was going to wind up in surgery, you know. And I'm at Montgomery College. Everything was online in biotech last semester. The college will open in remote. They haven't made an official announcement about after spring break, but I noticed they, in the registration system, they removed all the room assignments. So that makes me suspect we have no plans to go back until at least the summer. The news is that Montgomery College has a very successful early college program, which is a bummer for high school teachers, because you lose your 11, 12 grade students, they come to us. But biotech joins that next fall. So I'm waiting for somebody to send me an email to tell me how many sections of what to add. The communication, I'm sure a lot of it is COVID related, but I feel like there's zero communication, but I always feel that way. So what else is going on with us?
You are doing a variety of events, Laurie and Savita. I think you guys were doing this amazing series, which I try to post it, but please tell people about it so we can.
Oh yeah, so I had been doing, so I never know what to call it. Sometimes we call it the Biotech Club, and sometimes we call it Lunch and Learns, and it's more community or related. This semester, yeah, so I asked FCC and UMBC TLST, which is the transfer institution that says they're focused on industry relevance. And I just asked them to join. I believe Avi's students have been coming. I sent it out to MCPS, but I don't think Montgomery County Public Schools, I don't think it ever made it to anybody other than Avi's class, because I emailed him directly. DCPS actually had a fairly large number of students attending them. So if you'd like to get the invitation, I put my email in a couple of things ago, I'll put it in again. It's, I believe we'll keep the same daytime, Mondays at 4, and it may not be every Monday next semester, because every Monday this semester killed me. And
it did, it was
Lori,
crazy.
I just posted the sign up form that you had sent me, and then I posted on my classes.
That's not it anymore. That is
Okay.
no longer the sign up form. So UMBC was wonderful. They have like a whole devoted team of marketing people. So they made that and posted it. It was all great. But I think next semester I might have, of course, it turns out someone in our office knows how to do that. So I may have her do it. Not that it matters. I just didn't like the graphic they used, and I didn't want to get too picky because, you know, gift horse and all that. So, but I was like, I'm sure we can come up with something that doesn't look like it was made for fourth graders. Last semester, we kind of have a theme. So last semester, the kind of theme was employment. And next semester, the kind of theme will be vaccines.
Okay. And I was going to say, Heidi and Sean, you guys can encourage your students for like extra credit, like write up, whatever, attend and write up stuff. We used to do that like a lot, maybe, even though you're not in the county, but they would learn a lot. It was amazing. I attended some of them. Some of them I was bummed, but couldn't attend all of them. But it's amazing.
Don't oversell it, Emery. I mean, they're okay.
Yeah, it was amazing because, those students who came, like, so for some people who are in high school, they would not know about those careers if they didn't come.
Would it be okay for our college, to?
Yes. If you'd like to join, I'm in the more the merrier phase, Yes, send me an email. I'll loop you in. And if Savita objects, well, obviously.
No, I don't. Yeah,
because obviously you're not going to say anything right now. But I mean, I think we were all kind of like, yes, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
I think
the good news is I've had way better attendance at the online things, even from my students, than I ever did when they had to walk to a room, even though they gave them pizza when they did it.
Working together and knowing what each other are doing is, I think, great help. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And I had the pleasure of attending Jackie's meeting, which they are developing the program. It was really nice. Even Lene was there and a lot of other industry representatives were there in the advisory board meeting. I think it's coming up really well.
Thank you. I'm trying to get the grading done so that I can focus on my curriculum forms to get the everything passed through our curriculum working group and through MHEC for new program. So we're working on an AS degree program and certificate. I'm looking at transferability, but also we feel like it's probably more at this point towards go to work with the possibility of transfer, just because the biology already seems to transfer to like UMBC. And so we're looking towards that other group of students who's not being met in Hartford County.
Ooh, and sorry, if I could just add to that. So sure. I probably don't have to explain to you guys that like biomanufacturing of vaccines and diagnostics like for COVID it's huge. If somebody can fog a mirror at this moment in time, they can probably get a job in the industry. So you may find that your high school graduates are going directly into the workforce. And that might be a very good thing, from the point of view of everybody in the world for the near future.
Yep, definitely.
I think the next meeting, if we focus on how community colleges can develop programs with high schools, or how to actually work that out, people who've already done it, if they tell us how to do it, that might help develop a pipeline for other biotech programs like Laurie's program and
we need a pipeline too.
And that's why I was appreciative when they mentioned in the talk the thing about like not competing, because I adore Laurie, and I think Laurie feels the same way about me, but we are technically competing programs. And so that's been something that we've been trying to navigate. I agree with what they said about that. I don't know that our there's so many positions and we're not filling all of them, so like we're not technically competing yet, but that could always happen in the future. But we're still competing for industry attention in terms of helping us get attention to our programs by students, etc.
It will be a little bit hard to. The BACE was like, you guys really helped me when you said BACE, and I contacted one person and they kept emailing me and then ended up saying, can 4 of us arrive for the meeting? And I was like, please do. But for the community college high school partnership, one thing that I can do is invite the Texas state, because they have a great program and they bridged it very well between community college and high school. I don't know if you know this, but Linnea's program in Austin Community College is way more high school dual enrollment student than her own students. I think I may not be wrong if they run in hundreds of dual enrollment students. So they have a huge program. So that could be one.
But Linnea's not there anymore, I don't think. It's someone else now.
I mean, Jennifer and Linnea, they are all running the thing. She's still the chair, so technically, I don't know. We can contact Linnea and ask how she can help us, but would it help if we took individual counties and pulled out, like, for example, Laurie and Avi, or Savita and I don't know, Valerie is teaching at high school, I know. So picking those, or Jackie with, I don't know if Linda was the partner school. And like people present in pairs about there, and we don't have like maybe a huge speaker, but maybe definitely have a speaker, but then focus on like 2 programs and how those programs are there, or this is something you want to have among yourselves. Like we would also like to know, how your programs are running. And
yeah, we're still just starting to build our partnership, since our grant funding is really what has pushed us forward. So I don't know that I have much to share as far as the knowledge base yet. I'm more like taking information in.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of who has talked about this, like being really successful besides Austin.
Wasn't there a Bay Area program that was really successful?
That's what I was going to say. I think somebody in the Bay Area.
Yeah, we can find out, because the national grant has all the Innovate Bio. That's the main thing. Innovate Bio has all the information we can pick up and pull from there, how they exactly incorporate. I know Texas incorporated the program as a CTE program and a dual enrollment. It took them about 10 to 15 years to do that. I hope we can do it faster. But
I wonder if there's any benefit for trying to get like a bunch of different levels here. Like it's frustrating to me because I feel like I push from my side and I don't even get to the people who make decisions. Like I push and the person who I'm pushing, it just is too many layers. So, and I have never been able to actually sit down with the people at the community college to say, hey, what is it that you really want from the curriculum? Because let's see if we really do overlap and where we don't and what we can do. I think we compete for students to a certain extent, but we always have a couple of students who are not ready to go directly to a 4-year college, either academically or financially. And it would be really good if we could have some sort of partnership, but it's not, the right people aren't talking to the right people. And I don't know, I want you to make that happen, please. Will you?
Cindy, to you, I promise you that we will get someone at least from Howard Community College. If not, I don't know, for everyone, just for you. It's a promise from me to you, because I know people in Howard very well. And I can make this happen between you, me, and them.
And maybe we can get someone from Howard and then someone from my curriculum office, which sometimes I think is not being my best advocate, and so if we can have somebody from, I'm saying all these things not as diplomatically as I would if I weren't so exhausted. I think that might be a good person to have in the office for them to feel in the meeting. Then they can feel like, oh, this is my idea. I'll get credit for it, as opposed to, it would be great. That'd be good. Yeah.
I think connecting with the faculty directly is probably one of the ways to go, because then that helps to create those partnerships of what those curriculums involved and how they can complement each other. So it's not seen as competition, but rather that pipeline that Lori and Avi, were talking about, that, and probably a lot, right now it's a hot field, but there may be times where the associate degree will really benefit students. And so creating those pipelines and how it's beneficial for everyone, because we need students in our programs and you want places for your students to go. And so approaching it from that, how do we help each other, as opposed to it being like competition, I think is really important.
And you know what, I think it's the degree to which we're really competing with each other is overstated. I think once our program became big enough that people knew about it, like, so when I started, we had 18 students in our program. We had 90 students in our program with a waiting list last year from not a very big county. I think it would only help all of us if people just knew that this was an option, that it's not just a biology degree or an engineering degree, that there are other things. That's my political stance.
No, I am in total agree with you. I'm up in Harford County, and we're doing a disservice, I think, to our biology students by not showing him the opportunities that there are in the state. Montgomery, they tend to know a lot because it's so much a part of that industry right there, but it's starting to spread more throughout the state. Frederick, I think, area, Baltimore City, which is not far from where we are. And so, everybody comes in and, well, if you're biology, you're going to be in medical school or something. And that's not going to be the case for majority of our students. And so part of what I'm trying to do with our grant is really to push through with partnering with the high schools to provide that outreach to show students what those possible careers are. And so it's not, we don't have a really strong connection yet with our high schools, but we're trying to build that. So I'm on the other end looking to the high schools like, hey, come and partner with us. And you're looking to the college, hey, somebody, it's too bad we're too far apart.
Yeah, but Maryland still is a small state. And I think we all agree that we have benefits of that. And whether it is like Heidi and Charles or Sean and Baltimore City, you know, we are all like still kind of we can be still very, very connected that way. Is there any other topics that we can discuss, and when can we have the next meeting? Because I do have a potential date, and that is February 13, because it's a long weekend. So the Saturday being used wouldn't feel like so bad for some people, but I don't know if it's a President's Day is for everyone, or if it's something that, or you want to push it a little further, then we can do that.
We should have a meeting early on, because now that we are on this topic, which is pretty important for all of us to increase enrollments, if we can make a plan, right, meeting earlier and
Sure.
working on this before the semester starts might be a good idea.
Before the semester start, I don't know, like whatever dates you guys suggest, and that could be something that
January.
Yeah, I'll start to get more busy again by mid-January. That's part of the reason I started a master's program, so that's why it's been harder for me to make things. It's just ended this last week.
So January, like the Martin Luther King weekend, because it's a long weekend, so it wouldn't feel like we stole away time from the weekend kind of thing.
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay, so I will try to see if we can get Linnea and partners, you know, from being able to shed a little bit light about how they made it happen in Texas, or if they want to have a California college high school system share with us, how did they make it happen there? So
people who already are doing it here in Maryland.
People who are doing it, well, you will be surprised that Savita, actually not a lot there is not solid, I mean, Laurie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but are there solid MOUs and dual enrollment, solid partnerships? I don't think, Savita, that is true for the state.
No, it has all fallen apart.
Yes.
I'd be happy to talk about that next time.
Yeah.
It's, we're kind of siloed.
There's so much tape.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
one thing that I'm curious about. So we're also, I think I heard Heidi say earlier that they're submitting to the state for having being recognized as a CTE program. We're altering our CTE status from being a 4-credit to a 3-credit program. So at present, we're just the molecular course, which is double period, and then an insert to advanced science credits here type situation. But that was only recognized at the county level. The state one had 2 specific courses that we never run because the school won't run a class that has less than 15 students signed up. So we're adding back in special topics in the biotechnology course, which for next year at least we're going to be running as a makeup for all the labs you missed class. So the AP Science kids are going to be allowed to enroll in it next year as a like, we're just going to do a lot of the labs. You didn't get any labs, and that way we're going to make sure it runs at least next year. And then since it's running, we'll have a curriculum going, and then hopefully more kids will be able to sign up through our program to take it their senior year.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Thank you. I actually can say I came up with it.
Yeah.
But and I'm glad they went for it. But the unfortunately, that means I have to write a curriculum for it, and I'm as I'm sure Lori knows, I already do 1,000 things, and so we're one of the only academies in the county that I don't have a release period. So I have, and then I'm also doing this master's. So I would love ideas for part of the thing that's been interesting, especially with the Texas program and a lot of the project leader programs, is they are like many-year programs. It sounds like Heidi, yours is a 4-class program as well, whereas currently ours is 1, and I've kind of tried to fuse everything into this 1 double period class, and then like trying to figure out how to like unweave that, and then what do I then shift over to this special topics class. That's something that I'm having to figure out with not a lot of bandwidth. So I'm definitely curious. Would love some ideas and input. I'm happy to trade that for lots of tech, and I'll make you apps. And I have 77 pages of textbook reading guides to go with the BACE, going with the BioRad textbook that I made during our 2-week hiatus when we closed for COVID last year. And we thought it might only be 2 weeks. How naive we were. But I spent 10 hours a day during that time reading the whole BioRad textbook to identify the areas. Lori, you had done this with me. We had gone through the different BACE criteria type things when we had met for the curriculum planning in the spring. And so I had a list of all the things that we didn't currently cover in our curriculum that we needed to if the kids were going to take the BACE. And so I made 77 pages of reading guide questions. And I do have textbook scans. So if you're curious if any of you guys are wanting to use any of those things.
You can share in the, share it with the common drive, you know?
Yeah. Just if you don't mind resending me the link to her. So this was the,
yes.
So I use the BioRad one. I know a lot of people use the other ones, the Doherty one. But yeah, so I have a lot of things I can share. I just don't even know where to begin in writing that new curriculum.
Yeah, anything that anyone wants to share now that we have a drive which we didn't have the first time, please feel free and we will share those things, and we can definitely join it. I want to tell you that at Baltimore City Community College, I did develop a very nice dual enrollment model, you know, which I'm not sure how far they'll follow up because there is a change in the person who is going to come. So I am happy to share. It wouldn't take too long, but if you want that we invite someone who has a successful model, more than happy to do that, and I'll share more information. Also, I want to know, am I killing you with my emails? No? Okay.
If I'm not able to open it, I just won't open it, and it'll be another one of the 46,000 unopened emails.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's fine. So yeah, I try to reach you in multiple ways. I don't know if GroupMe is working at all, but I can do a text if that, I want to minimize the methods and maximize the output. So let me know, I'll send a survey, you let me know what works for you, and we'll just follow up with that. And I know we have taken a lot more time, but I hope that's not too bad. You're on mute, Cindy.
I was mostly talking to myself. I'm like, it's a good group. My children are coming down saying, are you okay? It's a long meeting. I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty useful group, actually.
Yeah. So definitely thank you everyone for, you know, just being there on a Saturday. It's kind of hard, I know that. And I warn everyone from 2 days before. I was like, Saturday meeting, don't bother me in afternoon. Everything will be done before 2 p.m. So don't So I hope that, I know it's a kind of adjustment for everyone, but thank you so much for doing this, and we'll share everything with you guys, including all the chat messages. I'll share chat in a separate thing and all the recording and everything with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a nice weekend and nice holidays. We'll see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Rita, will you send me the link to the folder for me to upload the files into?
Absolutely. Yeah, I will send to everyone and probably need the Gmail. So you'll see in the survey, it'll say like, please share your Gmail so that it can conveniently be shared. Otherwise it keeps hitting the, you know, not recognized or not being able to share.
Avi, thank you for sharing so many things. They're great.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I like what Lori said. I'm all aboard. I forget the phrase was, but the more the merrier.
The more the merrier kind of thing. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. That's what I like about the biotech groups in Maryland. It's they're very much like that. It's great.
If we're going to take time to make it stuff, it might as well get used, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, thank you. Thanks, Amrita.
Yeah. Bye then.
Bye.
Thank you so much for setting this up.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I copy the chat and I stop the recording in time.
Yeah, no,